In this video, we're going to look at Paul George's electric second half on opening night. Paul George really had an incredible second half in Tuesday night's opener. And this first play, the first play that he scores on in the second half, comes pretty early. He did a lot of his damage late in the third quarter, but here he's matched up against Anthony Davis, and he's going to go one-on-one against him. He crosses him over, and he actually attacks Davis's front foot, which gets Davis a little off balance. George drives and bumps into him to create the space necessary to stop and get off a nice little pull-up in the short mid-range that he ends up cashing. Paul George is one of the absolute best pull-up three-point shooters in the league, and when you pair him with a great screener like Ivica Zubac, magic can happen. Zubac looks like he's setting the screen on this side, but instead he's going to flip it over to the other side, and this catches Schroeder a little bit off guard and he collides. But Montrezl Harrell is too deep in drop coverage and can't allow himself or Schroeder to contest the shot, and Paul George bangs it in. This was one of George's more impressive plays in the second half. He's going to attack Kyle Kuzma in secondary transition here, and as you see, Kuzma's hips are rotated the wrong way, so when George crosses back to the middle of the floor and gathers, Kuzma's out of position. He's in no way or shape or form able to defend this properly, and he fouls George, who makes the layup, and he goes to the line, and he converts the free throw. Paul George is so good at getting his shot off against any defender that it's just incredible. Here we see a pin down for him by Patrick Patterson, but Kyle Kuzma does a good job of staying attached here and making sure that he doesn't get lost in the host of screens that the Clippers end up setting. Ivica Zubac is going to set a screen right here for Paul George against Kuzma, and this screen right here is good enough to get Paul George matched up against Montrezl Harrell, which is an advantage for the Clippers. As Paul George drives, he gets lower to the ground than Harrell does, and this lower center of gravity allows him to bump Harrell off track and get space to rise and fire in the mid-range and knock it in. Playing drop coverage, especially against Paul George, is just an interesting business decision that the Lakers made, and it's one that they paid for dearly with Harrell on the court. Here, Zubac sets a screen against Wesley Matthews for Paul George, and George is able to hold up and then get over the top. And as he goes up to shoot, Montrezl Harrell's nowhere able, to defend this or contest it, and Paul George has another free and easy three-pointer to knock in. Honestly, Paul George's footwork in this game was impeccable. Here he's matched up against Wesley Matthews near the right elbow, and as he goes to work, he hard plants with his left foot to hop back into a jumper, but watch his feet. Boom, plants with his right foot to get extra distance with his long strides. Wesley Matthews is in no way, shape, or form able to close the gap and the distance here, and Paul George has another great shot. We're about to see another play where Paul George utilized his great footwork to create enough space for him to get a shot off. Here, he's against Kyle Kuzma in the mid-post, and as he gets the ball from Luke Kennard, he's in prime position here. This is a triple threat scoring position. He can do a lot of things from this spot. And so what he decides to do is he goes with a forward pivot to generate space, but he uses his right foot, his forward pivot foot, to also push back to generate enough space to negate Kuzma's length on the contest, and he cashes the jumper in. Alright, this play is going to begin with Paul George in the far corner, and as we see him move off the ball here, he executes what's called the zipper cut right up through the lane, and we're going to see Ivica Zubac set his screen against his man, which is Kyle Kuzma. This allows Paul George to get a nice free release and receive the ball at the top, and they then flow into their pick and roll action. But the Lakers defend this curiously. Kuzma and Harrell both try to ice this action for some reason. Paul George goes early and catches them off guard. He plants very hard with his foot and hop step gathers into the jumper. Kuzma's nowhere around to contest this, and Paul George is just automatic. You can even be utilizing footwork off the ball, as we're about to see on this play by Paul George. Being able to get open with your ingenuity and your footwork is a big deal. And here, he's matched up against KCP in the corner, and he fakes like he's going baseline, which catches KCP off guard, and then goes over the top of the Zubac screen. And this screen generates enough space for Paul George to catch, hop, and gather into his shot. KCP's contest is not good enough, and Paul George has a good look, and he knocks this one in too. On this final play, I'm just going to say it again. Footwork, 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 footwork. Paul George had it in spades on opening night. It was really incredible to watch, and this play is a nice testament to that entire overall aspect of his game. He's going to get the ball here in the mid-post against Alex Caruso, who is a very good defender. But Paul George is bigger and taller, can get his shot off. But watch this here. Spins, plants hard with his right foot to go directly into the step back. This sends Caruso the wrong way. Caruso is nowhere near him on this jumper, and Paul George makes this one as well. Paul George had an incredible night from the field, and when you really think about it, this was probably one of his more virtuoso performances as a Los Angeles Clipper.